Ethan Miller wasn't expecting anyone that afternoon. He had just moved into his small Seattle apartment, kind with plain white walls and boxes stacked higher than the furniture. He was tired, dusty, and ready to collapse on the couch when the doorbell rang. He rolled his eyes, thinking it was the delivery guy who always arrived late. But when he opened the door, he froze, because the person standing there wasn't a stranger. And definitely not a delivery driver. A young woman stood in the hallway, holding a navy blue backpack and looking at him with the kind of calm confidence he wished he had. Her long brown hair fell over her shoulders, and there was something familiar in the soft shape of her smile. But Ethan couldn't place it, not at first. "Ethan, it's me. Lily," she said quietly. The name hit him like a sudden rush of wind. Lily Bennett. The girl who used to chase him around the lake house every summer. The girl who would cry when he packed his bags at the end of August. The girl who swore she would marry him one day. But that was more than a decade ago. Back then, she was a shy 12-year-old who collected stones and wildflowers. Now she stood in front of him as a grown woman, confident, composed. And very different from the child he remembered. He blinked, unable to hide his shock. "Lily, wow, you've changed." She smiled softly, as if she already knew that. "Can I come in?" He stepped aside without thinking. She walked into the apartment and looked around quickly, taking in the half-open boxes and bare shelves. She seemed calm, but there was something in her eyes that told him she wasn't here for a casual visit. Ethan shut the door and tried to relax, but his heart was beating faster than usual. Seeing her stirred up memories he didn't expect to feel again. Memories of long summers, silly jokes, and a little girl who used to follow him like a shadow. He suddenly felt older than he was. "What are you doing here?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. She turned toward him, her hands clasped gently in front of her. "I came because you made me a promise." "A promise?" He frowned. "Lily, that was a long time ago. We haven't seen each other in— You promised to marry me when I grew up," she said softly but firmly. The room fell silent. Ethan felt the air shift. He remembered the moment now an afternoon by the lake, a crying 12-year-old, and him trying to cheer her up. He had said the words jokingly, lightly, never imagining she would hold on to them. "Lily." He started, unsure what to say. She didn't look angry. She didn't even look hurt. She looked determined, as if she had rehearsed this moment for years. "You said I should come find you when I was older. So here I am." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, suddenly feeling cornered by his own past self. He wanted to laugh it off, but something about her expression stopped him. She wasn't teasing. She wasn't being dramatic. She was simply telling him the truth as she knew it. "You were a kid," he finally said. "I thought you'd forget that promise the moment school started." Her eyes softened. "I didn't forget." The simplicity of her words made his chest tighten. She had grown into someone strong, someone steady. But behind that strength, he saw the traces of the same sweet girl who used to bring him wildflowers she picked from the backyard. She glanced around the small apartment again and met his eyes. "I'm not here to demand anything. I just needed to talk to you. After all these years, I needed you to know I remembered." Ethan felt something shift inside him, guilt, maybe. Or maybe just the weight of being important to someone without realizing it. He didn't know how to handle the idea that Lily had carried his words with her for more than a decade. Her voice softened. "I grew up, Ethan," he swallowed, unsure what hurt, more the innocence of her belief or the quiet maturity in her tone now. Before he could respond, she stood there waiting, her expression full of calm, patience, and Ethan knew this wasn't a conversation he could escape or brush aside. Not anymore. Ethan watched Lily as she stepped inside his apartment. And it felt strange how easily the past slipped into the room with her. She didn't wander shyly the way she used to when she was a kid visiting the lake house. Now she moved with calm confidence, taking a slow look around as if she wanted to understand the life he lived without her. Ethan felt a tightness in his chest he couldn't explain. He had seen her last as a child who always carried wildflowers and big dreams. Yet standing here now was a woman who looked like she had already lived through heartbreak, hope, and years of waiting. He tried to steady himself and said her name again. quietly, as if to confirm she was real. She only gave a soft smile, the kind a person gives when they've finally reached a place they were scared to walk into. She sat on the couch, placing her hands on her knees, sitting with a gentle strength that made Ethan's heart beat faster. He sat across from her, feeling like a stranger in his own home. Before he could form the right words, she spoke first. "I know what you're thinking. And no, I didn't come here to trap you in some old promise." Her voice was calm, but there was a tiny shake to it, like she feared being misunderstood. Ethan leaned forward, wanting to be careful. She continued, "You said I'd forget. But I didn't forget because you weren't just a summer memory to me. You were the person who made me feel seen." She looked down for a moment, then lifted her eyes again. When you're a kid and someone treats you like your feelings matter, that stays with you. Her honesty hit Ethan hard. He suddenly remembered small moments helping her tie her shoelaces, fixing her kite, reading books to her on the porch steps. He had done it all lightly, simply wanting to comfort a child. But to her, those moments had meaning. And now, years later, he realized those moments had shaped her more deeply than he ever imagined. He took a slow breath and said softly, "Lily, I didn't mean to confuse you. I was just trying to make you smile back then." She nodded. "I know, and you did. You made my whole world feel bigger than it was." She paused, letting her words sink in. "I didn't come here expecting you to fall in love with me just because I did. I came because I needed to say this to your face. Not to hold you to a child's promise, but because I wanted you to know why I remembered." Her tone was gentle, but her eyes held something deeper, years of quiet hope, mixed with fear that maybe she had built a dream around a man who didn't feel anything at all. Ethan felt the weight of that fear. He didn't want to hurt her, but he also didn't want to tell her something he didn't feel. And at that moment, he wasn't sure what he felt. All he knew was that seeing her again stirred something unexpected inside him. She stood up and walked toward the window, letting the soft afternoon light fall across her face. She looked peaceful, but he could see she was holding herself together carefully. "I moved to Seattle a month ago," she said. "When I heard from my cousin that you were here too, I felt like maybe this was the moment to be honest." Ethan followed her with his eyes, trying to understand the mix of courage and vulnerability she carried. She kept her back to him as she added, "And maybe I just wanted to know if the person I loved as a kid was still the same person now." Those words filled the room with a soft ache. Ethan walked a little closer, but kept a respectful distance. "Lily," he said, "you're not that girl anymore. And I'm not the person you remember either." She finally turned and faced him. "I know that. I didn't come here looking for the past. I came to see if the present has room for us, whatever us means now." Her words were honest, mature, and steady. No pressure, no demand, just truth. And Ethan couldn't escape the pull he felt, the way her presence stirred old memories and new questions. He realized he cared more than he wanted to admit, and that truth unsettled him in a way he didn't expect. Ethan and Lily sat in the quiet living room, the golden light of the setting sun spilling across the floor. The air felt heavy with memories and unspoken words. Ethan watched her closely, noticing the subtle changes that had grown with time. Lily was no longer the small, shy girl he remembered from summers at his aunt's lake house. She carried herself with a quiet strength and elegance. And there was a depth in her eyes that spoke of years filled with thought and longing. She looked at him with a calm intensity, and Ethan felt his chest tighten. He knew she had come for a reason, though he was still trying to understand what it meant for him. She finally broke the silence. "I moved to Seattle last month," she said, her voice steady but soft. "And when I heard you were here too, I felt like I couldn't wait any longer. I had to see you." Ethan's mind raced. He wanted to ask why she had waited all these years. But he also realized that her choice to be here now carried its own significance. He sensed that this wasn't just a casual visit. It was something she had thought about for a long time. He nodded, inviting her to continue. Lily shifted slightly, standing near the window, the sunlight framing her figure. "Ethan, I needed to know if what I felt all these years was real," she said. I needed to see if the feelings from my childhood were just imagination or something more. Her words carried both vulnerability and courage, and Ethan felt a mix of admiration and nervousness. It was strange to hear a child's promise transformed into an adult's question, but the sincerity in her voice left no room for doubt. He realized she had grown up holding on to the memory of him, and that thought made his heart ache with a combination of guilt and awe. He swallowed and tried to gather his thoughts. "Lily, you're incredible," he began, feeling awkward yet sincere. "I never expected you to remember that promise, and I certainly didn't think you would hold on to it for so long." He paused, unsure how much to reveal. "I don't want to mislead you, and I don't want to give you the wrong idea." Lily turned to face him fully, her eyes steady. "I'm not asking you for marriage, Ethan," she said softly, shaking her head. "I'm asking for honesty. I want to know what you feel, truly. If your heart feels nothing, tell me. If the thought of us doesn't matter to you at all, I need to know." There was no anger or pressure in her words, only a quiet courage that made Ethan feel exposed in the best way. He had expected confrontation or reproach, but instead, she was offering him a chance to respond truthfully. Ethan looked at her, memories flooding back. He remembered the small things, the way she used to run to him with wildflowers, her laughter echoing across the lake, her stubborn little personality that made him smile and roll his eyes at the same time. All those moments had felt innocent, but now, in the present, they carried a weight he hadn't expected. Seeing her as an adult, those childhood memories intertwined with the person she had become. It was strange and exhilarating at the same time. He felt a rush of emotions, confusion, nostalgia, and an undeniable attraction that had taken root over years without him realizing it. Her presence made the room feel alive in a way it hadn't before. He noticed the soft tilt of her head, the way she held herself, and the slight tremor in her voice that betrayed the emotions she tried to keep hidden. It was in these small, delicate moments that he understood the depth of her feelings and the courage it had taken for her to come here. For a long moment, neither spoke. Ethan searched for words, knowing that anything careless could hurt her. Finally, he whispered, "Lily, I don't know exactly what this is, but I feel something. Something I didn't expect today. When I saw you, I feel drawn to you." Her eyes widened slightly, and a soft smile appeared, gentle but full of emotion. "That's all I wanted to hear," she replied. She stepped closer, the tension in the room easing just a bit. "I didn't come here to force anything. I just wanted to know if you cared, or if I had imagined it all these years." Ethan exhaled slowly, realizing that he did care, more than he had expected. Her words had opened a door in his heart he hadn't even known existed. The feelings were real, complicated, and terrifying, but they were real nonetheless. He reached out tentatively, unsure if she would take his hand. She did, her grip warm and steady, and in that simple connection, a silent understanding passed between them. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the room. But inside, something brighter had begun. Both knew this moment could change everything. Both sensed that the journey from childhood memories to adult hearts was only just beginning. In that quiet room filled with light and emotion, they both understood. The past had brought them together, but the future was theirs to shape. Ethan looked at Lily, a small nervous smile forming on his lips. "So, this is our chance, isn't it?" She nodded, eyes shining with quiet hope. "Yes, Ethan, our chance." And in that shared silence, both felt the stirrings of something tender and powerful, a love waiting patiently through the years, finally stepping into the light. Ethan took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the city outside, and the golden light from the window painted Lily in a warm glow. He looked at her, really looked, and saw not the little girl from summers long ago, but the woman she had become, strong, confident, and full of quiet grace. Every memory he had of her as a child came rushing back to laughter. The stubbornness, the wildflowers she used to bring him, but now, mixed with the present, felt different, real, alive. He realized he could no longer deny what he had been feeling ever since she appeared at his door. Lily, he began, voice steady but soft, seeing you today. It's like a spark I didn't know was waiting. I don't want to lie to you, and I can't ignore this feeling anymore. Her eyes searched his, a flicker of hope and nervousness dancing within them. Ethan stepped closer, the distance between them shrinking, and continued. I care about you. More than I expected, more than I realized. And I think I have for a long time. Lily's lips parted slightly, a soft gasp escaping as if she had been holding her breath for years. Her hands trembled, though she tried to hide it, and Ethan noticed the subtle quiver. He reached out, gently taking her hand in his, feeling the warmth and the electricity in that simple touch. I don't want this to be just words, he said. I want to try. If you'll let me. Not because of a promise we made when you were a kid, but because I see you now, and I want to see where this can go. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, and a small smile curved her lips, soft and radiant. Ethan, I've waited a long time to hear that, she whispered. Not just for the words, but for this moment, for honesty. I'm not asking for promises from the past. I want a chance, a real beginning. She squeezed his hand gently, grounding them both in the reality of the present. The city outside seemed to fade away as they stood there, connected by years of memories and the weight of unspoken feelings. Ethan could feel his heart opening, letting go of the hesitation that had held him back for so long. He noticed the little things, the way her hair caught the light, the subtle expression in her eyes, the quiet confidence in her stance, and realized that he had been blind to the depth of his own feelings until now. Everything about this moment felt like it had been waiting quietly for the right time. I don't want to waste another day, Ethan admitted, his voice firmer now. I want to start fresh, with honesty, with understanding, with care. I want to be with you not because of a childhood promise, but because I truly want this. Lily's smile widened slightly, a mixture of relief and happiness. She felt the tension in her chest ease, replaced by a gentle excitement she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. This was real. This was their moment, and they were both willing to step into it together. They moved closer, still holding hands, the unspoken feelings between them growing louder than words. Ethan realized how much he had longed for this connection without knowing it. Her presence filled a space in him he hadn't realized was empty. And for Lily, seeing him stand there with sincerity and courage erased years of doubt. She had carried the memory of him, the hope of him, through childhood and adolescence, and now she saw that her feelings had been met. Not with mockery or dismissal, but with a genuine, heartfelt response. Ethan's fingers brushed a strand of hair from her face, and she leaned slightly into the gesture, trusting him completely. So this is the start? She asked softly, a hint of wonder in her voice. Yes, he said, smiling gently. The start. Our start, together. They stood there for a moment, letting the weight of years dissolve into the simplicity of holding hands and sharing a look that spoke more than words ever could. It wasn't a dramatic declaration, not a grand gesture, but something quieter and far more powerful, a mutual understanding that the past had led them here. But the future was theirs to shape. The love that had quietly grown over the years had finally been acknowledged, nurtured, and given space to breathe. As they left the living room to sit together, side by side, the world outside continued unaware of the profound change that had occurred in that quiet apartment. Ethan and Lily, once separated by time and distance, had found each other again. They knew challenges would come and that life would not be perfect. But they also knew that honesty, trust, and the gentle strength of shared hearts would guide them. And for the first time in years,